For me, growing out my natural hair was independence. It was freedom. It was liberation. It was breaking free from the opinions of others. It was the first, shaving, of that shell or whatever, and just coming more into who, I actually wanted to be. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Truth Reveal podcast, where we host conversations that relate in order to reconcile as we uncover God's truth. Of course, I'm joined by my co hosts today, Latricia Peak and April River.
Hello.
All right, awesome. So today we wanted to kind of take a different, we're not really a different turn. It's kind of in the same vein of the last episode. Because if you remember on the last episode, we talked about, our true Independence Day, which was Juneteenth, and that we are currently in the biggest civil rights movement of our time. Well, today I wanted us to focus on another part of that movement, and that is the Black Hair Independence movement. Okay. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of the Crown Act, but it is currently an act that lawmakers are trying to get passed. And what the Crown Act is, first of all, it stands for Creating Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. So that's what Crown stands for. And it's an act that prohibits race based hair discrimination, which is the denial of employment and educational opportunities because of hair textures or protective styles, including braids, locks, twists, and Bantu knots. Okay. So currently, it's law in 7 states, California being the first. It became law July the 3rd of 2019. So actually, last weekend, which the third, I think, was it Friday or Saturday, one of those days, was actually National Crown Day. Okay. So it got passed in California first. And so it has since also been passed in New York, Montgomery County, Maryland, Virginia, Colorado, New Jersey, Cincinnati, and Washington State. So basically, what I wanted to do today is kind of highlight the Crown Act by first talking about the history, giving a brief history of Black hair, and then we're all going to share our own personal natural hair journey. So
Yay.
you are in for a treat today. So I know it sounds like a lot is going on in this episode, but it's all going to tie together. So trust me. So, okay. So first I'm going to give this brief overview. Well, hopefully it'll be brief of Black hair. Okay. So we all know that our hair is very important to us, and there's a root to that. There's a history to that. Okay. So when I was doing my research, I came across a lot of little tidbits that I want to share with you guys. So, Black hair has always been synonymous with cultural identity, and therefore it is a very sensitive topic. Okay. Throughout history, it shows the evolution of Black culture. Okay. Um, let's see. And then as I was going forward in my research, basically it goes all the way back to African tribal styles. In early African civilization, hairstyles could indicate a family background and social status. Okay. Identity could be learned just by looking at someone's hair. Um, and then, of course, when you think about, African religions, there were some who believed that the hair's close connection to the sky was the conduit for spiritual interaction with God.
Wow.
Okay. So that's another tidbit. Okay. Going into slavery. Okay, so an estimated 11,640,000 Africans left the continent between the 16th and 20th century due to the transatlantic slave trade. They took their customs with them, including specifically designed combs for their hair. Okay. And then in some instances, before slaves were captured and boarded ships, traffickers shaved the women's heads in a brutal attempt to strip them of their humanity and their culture. Because if you think about it, uh, their hair was all they had. Everything else was stripped from them. So, some of them were some of their heads were actually shaved by traffickers to basically strip complete identity from them. Okay, so and then going on, I found out that before emancipation, many women hid their hair in head wraps, but a lot of them it just wasn't for convenience. A case in point, Latricia Peak. So anyway, many they hid their hair in head wraps, not only to for that convenience, but to make themselves less attractive to their owners. Case in
Mhm.
point, rapes and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, so there's a history behind the head wrap. It ain't just convenience. It's so that was a tidbit that I learned. And then others kept their braided styles, not only for culture, but for convenience. Okay, so when you think about being a part of a system where you are just trying to stay alive, there wasn't time for them to do their hair. So Sundays became the day that women did their hair and they began to prep their hair for the week. So they, went to braids because they lasted longer. Okay. Um, and then I also found out, which was very interesting, that they, did their hair in braids, but they also used oils in order to condition them. One of those oils being kerosene. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Kerosene. Yeah. Okay. And then also, braids served another purpose. They became a secret messaging system for slaves
Mhm.
to communicate with one another underneath their masters' noses. So basically, the braids provided like a map to freedom. So, for instance, like the number of plaits worn could indicate how many roads people needed to walk or where they needed to meet
Wow.
someone to escape bondage. Ain't that
Wow.
something? Like what? Just like
Amazing.
the songs, how they would sing the songs, and it would tell them, okay, this is what time you need to leave. They also used hair as a way of communicating that. So that was amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, but then what happened after slavery, braids and natural styles begin to begin to be considered unsophisticated as they started to try to blend into mainstream. So it was basically their attempt to camouflage and to fit in was when, of course, you have the straightening of the hair and all of that kind of stuff. And so that inserts Madam C.J. Walker and why she, became a millionaire because there were many people who were trying to camouflage and to fit in. Okay, so then fast forward to the 60s, the Black Power movement, our perception of our hair began to shift because that movement affirmed us and it rejected the Eurocentric framework of beauty. Okay, our hair became a symbol of rebellion and empowerment. Black Americans were developing a deep desire to honor our African roots and our styles. So, fast forwarding to today, because of that whole movement, there are still some who consider our hair to be a rebellious undertone, if you will.
Wow.
And so, many people make that assumption, and I'm not sure if that's the reason why we experience, because when I was looking at the Crown Act, they had several things that they had on their site. Um, like statistics, and basically they had Black women are 1.5 more times likely to be sent home from the workplace because of their hair. Okay. And then they had a statement on their website that said, I have to change my hair from its natural state to fit in at the office. And it says that Black women are 80% more likely to agree with that statement. So that's basically what I found out when it came to the history, of our hair. And then, when you go into the 80s, we shifted a little bit because we went into Jerry curls and and S curls and all that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah.
perms and stuff, were really popular then. But then it kind of seemed like it started to shift back around the late 90s. We started to make our way back to, doing more natural hairstyles. So did you guys, want to say anything about the, history that I pointed out? Anything that you wanted to add to anything I said? If not, I'll move
Well,
on.
I was just gonna say that I wish I could show y'all a picture. I have my mother was such a trendsetter, and my when I say my mama did it all with ever, my mama had a beautiful afro. She had a picture that I know I can't find now. I have a picture of her with my aunt. They both had Jerry curls, and honey, they was
Wow.
looking good. And then I have a picture of her and I may can get it during during if it's appropriate. I can get it and show it. I have a picture of her and I where she had the y'all remember Peaches and her. I know y'all were we were young, but she had those kind of braids with the beads at the end, and then
Oh,
I'm in the
wow.
photo with her with those braids with the beads.
Wow.
Um, so my mother, like she was in the movement, like whatever was going on, my mother had it, and yeah, and I remember my dad. He had the big afro, and then in the '80s he cut it down, tried to get the waves, with the part. So yes, it's very much such a part of our culture.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
definitely.
think
Matter of fact,
I
I'm gonna
Oh,
step away because I'm gonna go get that picture. Y'all go ahead.
okay. All right, go ahead.
I know I had heard about the braids being used as messengers or sending a message, but I didn't know exactly how until you just kind of define like the significance of like how it was done. It just
Yeah,
shows the genius. Like that's just
I'm telling
ingenious.
you.
I didn't know about the whole protective styles on Sundays to kind of go through the week. And I think I didn't know about the head wraps making yourself unattractive. So it's
Hmm.
like, wow, those things mean, in today's age and time, just kind of looking now what those things mean and what they meant then, it's just like, wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, ain't it something? Yeah, and just kind of going back to the whole black hair and how important it is to us, because it became the first, piece of our identity for us. And
Right.
so, and that kind of translates even in today, because when I was doing my research, I found out that in 2018, the black hair care industry raked in an estimated 2.51 billion.
Hmm.
Okay, because and it that was, yeah. So that basically tells you how important, our hair has been to us, and how it has kind of literally been like the roadmap of the evolution of us as a people. You've kind of been able to see that in our hair, from the afros in the 60s, like we tired of this, black power, to, trying to assimilate into the workplace and straightening our hair. So it literally is like a roadmap, for us. So,
Yeah.
but April, you said you had a
Yeah,
pit in that picture?
let me see. I hope this can focus y'all. Those of y'all who don't know, my mother passed away, so I couldn't get the regular one. I got her obituary, Lord. But but if I
Oh,
can focus in on this, y'all see that? Y'all
Oh,
see her
yeah.
right here with the
wow.
braids, and then this was a little bit of her Jerry curl days right there.
Oh
Jerry curl days.
my.
Hallelujah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is crazy. Okay, wow. So, what I wanted to do is basically just like I said before, as it relates to how our hair has kind of just shown, our evolution, as a people. What I wanted to do is just kind of go into us telling our own personal natural hair stories and our talk about our own personal evolutions and what um, going natural has meant for us. So, with that being said, we're going to start with April, and she's going to give us her natural hair journey.
All right. Well, when I first decided to go natural, it was around 2016, I want to say. My sister had been natural, and she kept saying, "April, you need to go natural, you need to go natural," and I always rejected it for a couple reasons. I thought, oh, my face is too big to have short hair. And I didn't know, I had never, since a child, really, I think I had been getting relaxers or at least getting my hair pressed since I got to middle school.
Hmm.
So I really didn't even really remember what the natural state of my hair was, sure enough, because middle school we were already getting perms, and prior to that, I was getting it straightened or, hot combed or whatever. Um, and so as an adult, I didn't even know what my texture would even look like. So I was
Wow.
very nervous, very afraid of doing that. And honestly, what ended up happening to kind of push me into natural was my hair, uh, my edges began to thin.
Mm.
My hair began to like not even hold a curl anymore. I think
Mhm.
I used to get it chemically straightened so much. Like if I would take a hot curler to it, it would just fall flat.
Oh,
And you'll see
wow.
a picture in the reel where my hair is really straight. It wasn't because I wanted it straight; it just would not hold curl at that point. I mean, it was longer. And I also had a very sensitive scalp. I used to be the type of person when I was, I hope I'm not getting ahead of the story, ahead of
Oh,
where
you
we're
good?
going. But I used to get relaxers, and I used to try to be like, I used to think that you want it, they used to say, you want it straight, don't you? I got to let it sit in there. It's going to burn a little bit. And I
Oh
used to be
my.
trying to, my head would hurt. Like I would get a headache trying to
Wow.
not complain about the burning sensation in my scalp, and
Mm.
what was happening. And I think over time that took a toll to where when I got good and grown, I was like, I ain't sitting here no more. I would go to a hairstylist and I'd be like, look, as soon as you smooth this, y'all know what I mean by smooth. As soon as you smooth it, this needs to come out. Like my hair
Yeah.
is already thin. If it's a little bit of wave, it's okay because my scalp it just couldn't do it anymore. Even
Yeah.
to the point now where I have a sensitive scalp. But anyway, so I made that decision because I just saw something going wrong, and I was like, I would rather have nappy hair than no hair.
Yeah,
So
come on. Oh
I
my.
and so
Mm.
I started on that journey, and I tried to do it the safe way. And I tried to say, oh, let me let it grow out and just transition and cut a little bit, 1 inch, 1 inch. And one day I made a mistake. Uh, I was in between stages, hadn't had a relaxer in I don't know how long, but I had a lot of perm on my hair.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I needed to do as a natural hair. So I tried to jump in the shower and wash my hair and hadn't detangled it,
Oh
hadn't went through the whole process
wow.
of doing the detangle. So I go
Mm.
wash my hair, and my sister's over my house, and I say, "Help me!" I said, "I can't even comb this out," and like I literally had hair that I couldn't untangle, uncomb. It was ripping, and she was like, "You want me to cut it?" I was like, "Cut it." We just was like,
Oh
"Cut it." So she
wow.
just went and cut all the perm out. And I had this little baby fro, and I'm talking about raw. You'll see it in my picture. I was looking raw, gray hair, little knots, so had about this much hair on my head. And the crazy thing, now this was right before so 2016, late 30. So I'm 42 now. How many years ago was that? 4. So
Mm.
I would have been 38. Okay. And I just was like, I felt empowered. I actually felt
Yeah.
almost like I don't know what the term, almost like sexy, like
All
I can rock
right.
this. Like, dang, I'm all right. I felt like because I used to be like, oh, I'm too big. I got too much of a fat face. Like I gotta have, because my thought, long flowing hair was more feminine.
Um,
And for whatever reason, I thought it would take the focus off how big my body was. And
I'm
and put
done.
it onto my
oh,
hair.
oh
Help me, God.
God.
And so, I went through that, but I felt empowered. I don't know
Yeah.
another way to say it. I was just like, I'm finna go out in public just like this, and put my lipstick on and be good. And other than going to dye my hair, and you'll see that where I have the short fro, and I've put the blondes in it and stuff. That's what I got my little color pop and got that gray out of there. And I've been rocking it ever since, and I'll never go back to a relaxer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what would you say, you've learned about yourself during your natural hair journey, or how you evolved in that process?
Well, that I could value my hair as it was. I always been a person, even though I guess I was a kind of a girly girl, but I never liked doing my own hair. Like my sister was a total opposite of me. She liked to do other people's hair. She liked to try different styles. That was never me. I just wanted to pay somebody, could you please do whatever, do something to this hair. Um, but when I became natural, I had to take ownership. One, because even
Mm,
then, it and even now it's getting better now, but I literally would have went to someone and she was like, I don't do natural hair, and you not and she's like, don't come in here talking about straightening
wow.
because you ain't. I don't like people, like, basically they feel like we're about to break their comb, the hot comb, to try to
Mm-hmm.
blow it out. And so there weren't a lot of natural hair places, and the ones that were rather pricey, in
Mm,
comparison to, like, other places, I guess. Um, but there just wasn't a lot of natural hair care options. So I had to learn how to
yeah.
bantu knot my hair, like
Mm-hmm.
what styles look good on me. Learn how to two strand twist my hair back. When it was short, I could just two strand it to my scalp and let it unravel. But I really think it gave me appreciation for my natural state. Because
Yeah.
I remember my first wash, and I was like, oh, this is what my curl pattern looks like when I got it wet. Like, wow, look at that. I actually do got some curliness to my hair, and
Yeah.
I actually evolved from. I really am not. I'm not bothered by the word nappy. I make fun of. I tease my family members.
Happy
I'm
to
like,
be happy.
I'm happy to be nappy, but it took me to somewhere from not even like, oh, my hair nappy. No, my hair is kinky. I started talking different about my hair.
Mm,
My hair is kinky. My hair is my curl pattern. I got this, how we put it into the different categories. Well, I don't know, forgot now, but so what is it, the C4 or whatever,
yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
categorizing of the hair, and your curl pattern, the tightness. And so I kind of evolved to really appreciate the beauty in my natural hair.
Mm,
And I think it gave me a certain and new level of confidence. And again, like we were talking about in the last podcast about Juneteenth and July 4th, we talked a lot about value. It
yeah.
taught me it's another value system. I value me just as I am,
Yes.
Mhm.
and God don't make junk. So
Mm-hmm. It's the
so
truth.
yeah, I feel like that's what going natural did for me.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome. All right, Latricia.
Well, my natural hair journey started probably about 20 years ago now. I'm thinking we're either at the 20-year mark or close to the 20-year mark. So it wasn't this revolutionary type of thing for me where I was like, I want to be free. I just decided that um, I had never had natural hair. Like April was saying, I grew up having my own personal beautician because my mom was a licensed cosmetologist. So I never had to go to the beauty salons or whatever because I was like her live-in mannequin. So, as a little girl, I got my hair pressed, and then when I became of a certain age, I started getting perms, and then I had perms all throughout middle school, high school, um, pretty much most of college, I believe it was. And I think somewhere in those college years, I decided that, hey, I think I want to go natural. So I started the process of cutting my hair. Now, by this time, it probably was maybe it wasn't shoulder length, but I probably had like a little long, maybe chin length. So I started gradually cutting my hair. So I went to like a bob stage, and then I went to the tapered in the back shortcut, and then I would go shorter. And my thought process was, I'm going to go shorter, and in that process, I stopped getting perms. And so there wasn't a lot of resources for me because this was 20 years ago when a lot of people really weren't going natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I found don't even know how I found this young lady out, but I went to a barbershop called No Grease in Charlotte, and she was the only female barber in the shop, and I went and had a consultation with her. And I said, I want to cut the perm off, cut all the perm out of my hair. And I was a little nervous, so I really wanted to talk to her about what this process is going to look like. How am I going to be able to manage? And she said, oh yeah, definitely, I got you. Scheduled an appointment, and went back, and she cut my hair. And it was like I said, it was a shortcut, so it was already tapered in the back, but I had been letting it grow out. So she cut it off, and I thought this was kind of unique, and I don't know what the process is like going natural now, but she actually used the scissors to actually cut all of the perm out, and then she took the clippers and like even me up and shape me up. And this was all taking place in the middle of a male barbershop with
Oh,
black
wow.
men
No.
surrounding me. And I was just
Oh,
like, I
wow.
felt naked because, it was like they're coming in getting their hair cut. And I'm in the chair, the only woman outside of the young lady cutting my hair. I'm in the chair, and she's literally cutting all of my hair off. And
Wow.
when she finished, and I'll never forget this because it kind of goes into what April was saying. When she finished cutting my hair and she showed me the scissors, I probably had like an inch and a half of hair. Like I didn't have a lot of new growth. So when you say teeny weeny fro, I had a teeny weeny fro. And I just was like, oh God, like I have no hair. Thankfully, I have a pea head because it looked okay. My head is not big, so it worked. Everything was proportioned. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I remember as I was getting ready to walk out the barbershop, the men in the barbershop was like, you look good, sis. I see you,
Oh,
girl. They just
All
start
right.
gaslighting me. And it just like
awesome.
in that moment, it was like I felt invigorated because we are
Mm,
taught that hair is glory. And like April was saying, we attach femininity to long hair.
yeah.
So, I basically was walking out of the shop with hair a little bit longer than the men that were in the shop getting haircuts. And
Wow.
so for them to come up to me and say, it looks good, it looks nice. I remember going to Walmart. Like, it's funny the things that you remember. I remember going to Walmart that day, later on that evening, and random strangers saying, your hair looks really good. And I was like,
Mm.
thanks. And every time they would say something to me, I would do this because I was like, yeah, I don't have any hair. So that was pretty liberating. And then as it started to grow out, I started to have issues because I became frustrated because I didn't know how to manage natural hair. And
Mm.
it was easy when it was in that short phase. First of all, there weren't a lot of natural hair products.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
actually was in college. And so there weren't a lot of natural hair products. So I wasn't using Jerry Curl products, but I was using like a leave-in conditioner. So
Mhm.
because I didn't know really how to do it, like I would get it wet literally every day in the shower and put like the leave-in conditioner, and it would, kind of curl up or whatever. But as it started to grow out, that became pretty challenging because I didn't know what to do. So I
Yeah.
resorted to what most of my sisters have resorted to, which I utterly hate at this present moment, and that's an Afro puff. Because I just didn't know what else to do. So I would just
Hey, wait a
put,
minute now.
I
Watch it.
hate them.
Watch
I
it.
I
Watch,
despise
watch out there
Afro
now.
puffs. So I would just basically put it in these Afro puffs,
Mhm.
or just, at least one Afro puff. I did Afro puffs. I let somebody press it, which was very interesting, getting your hair pressed as an adult, as opposed to getting
Mhm.
it pressed as a young lady, or as a little girl, because the styling is different. It's different when you're getting it pressed and it's twisted and you got barrettes on the end. But it was like when it starts to get hot and I start to sweat and it starts to
Yeah.
poof, like that was a whole issue. I had a friend that was pretty good with hair, so I started doing sew-ins. So I used to get what I called them the Macy Gray sew-ins. So I started doing all these experimental things with my hair because I just didn't know what to do. And finally, the last thing that transitioned me was I started, somebody two-strand twisted my hair. And I realized that I liked that the most. It was simple, it was twisted, I could wear it. I didn't have to do anything to it. Now, this is pre-twist out, so I didn't have the knowledge that we all have now, that unlike like Silly in The Color Purple, if only how I had known that I could take them twists out, it probably would have been a whole new day. So I was just wearing them twisted, not even trying to take them out and do anything. And
Mhm.
I really just got tired of trying to figure out what am I going to do with my hair. So I decided to cut it again. Um, Maybe about 2.5, 3 years into being natural, is grown out, is longer. I decided that I was going to let it lock. And that was the transition too, because the locking transition is totally different than the big chop transition, because
Mhm.
that was just as foreign. So, with locking, you're in the beginning stages of it, you're only washing your hair like once a month. Like literally, you only
Wow.
wash your hair
Oof.
once a month. And they just kind of give you like a wet shampoo to kind of cleanse your scalp and things of that nature. So I cut it off and I started locking probably in 2006 or 8, in between 6 and 8, I started locking. And I had locks for about 16 years, well
Wow.
into my 30s. And my goal was I was going to keep the locks until I turned 40. That was what I said to myself. I was going to have this bomb photo shoot because I was letting them grow out. And I wanted to be real risque. And I was going to take this photo shoot and having my locks to hang over all of me. And then I was going to cut them off. And what happened was, from the years and years of having the locks, it started, the tension of it began to damage my scalp.
Mm.
And so I was like, I'm probably going to have to cut these off a little sooner than I had anticipated. So around 38, I don't know why 38 is the magic number, but around 38, I was like, well, if I'm going to cut them off anyway, I started experimenting. So I shaved one side of my head and I had locks on the other side. And, I did that for a while. And then I went to Atlanta, Georgia, to a very skilled beautician, and cut all my locks off. And that was, it's like every time I would take these natural hair journeys, it would cause me to be frustrated with the newness of this new thing.
Mm.
Because it was like, okay, for 16 years with locks, once they got long and you twist them and you go get them done once a month and you do whatever, it was the most effortless hair ever. I would pull them up at night, put them in a ponytail, wrap a bonnet around my edges or something, or a scarf, get up in the morning, put a little oil sheen, little oil, shake them, pin them back, whatever I'm going to do, and walk out the house. Well, now I have no locks. I have not known my natural hair texture in 16 years, and I'm having to kind of go through this phase of, how do I do this type of hair? And so that was a process.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the things that I feel like I've learned through the process is it really is a journey. And you have to be patient with yourself on the journey. And I know different people go natural for different reasons, and some people it's spiritual and it's political. And, honestly, for me, it was neither of those things. It was just style. I wanted something different. I wanted to try something different. I wanted to experiment. But what I can say is throughout every shift, throughout that process, I learned more things about myself. So when I first 20 years ago went natural, unfortunately, my cousin had just passed away, and I had cut off my hair a week prior to that happening. And when I went to Maryland to be with my family for the funeral, no one in my family had seen me because I had been in school, and no one knew that I had cut my hair off. And all of my great aunties were like, why would you cut your hair? It was so pretty. It was so long. It was so, and it almost was to insinuate that this short curly hair was not that.
Yeah.
And then when I started letting my locks grow in, which was a process all within itself, there is a such thing as a quote unquote ugly phase. It's when your hair isn't really locked and it's kind of short. So you kind of go through like a buckwheat stage where it's just like short and stumpy. Then it starts to grow out, but it's not long enough to really do anything with. And so it's like all of those phases bring out another level of frustration where it's like, what have I done? And I've even talked to people who wanted to lock their hair, women that have said they don't want to go through the ugly phase because it's deemed as the ugly phase. You really can't do anything with it. And then, even when I cut my locks, as much as me cutting them, because I was starting to experience, hair loss, and actually ended up with tension alopecia in certain spots because they were so heavy. I was also going through a transition in life, and I felt like, well, this is a better time than ever to give myself a new look, to reinvent myself. And I can say that through each of those reinventions on the journey, it just continues to build courage and tenacity and confidence, as much as it revealed my frustration, my own standards of what beauty is to me, the frustration of the process, because it is a frustrating process. And I remember thinking, I don't know how to do my hair. And I'm unlike April. Because my mom was a beautician, she experimented on me, but then I also was pretty self-sufficient in doing my own hair. Even in college, I was a little bit of a kitchen beautician. So some simple things I could clip your ends, perm you, give you a rod set, a doobie at that time. So it was frustrating for me that I didn't know how to do my hair as a woman, as a Black woman. So it brought out a lot of things about myself. The journey is literally a journey.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to see.
Oh,
Go ahead, April.
no, go ahead. No, I wasn't gonna say nothing important. I was like, I miss that girl locks.
I know
I
they
miss
were
my
nice,
locks
sweet. They were really
too.
nice.
I miss my locks.
And y'all will
Yes,
see
you
the
took care of
pictures.
yours.
Yes, she did, honey.
Yeah.
She rocked them things so they couldn't be rocked
Yeah.
no more.
I actually still have them. Every
Yeah. Oh,
now
you
and
see,
then
just
I
In a
I kept
box.
them.
Oh my
I
God.
kept them. I thought about giving them to Locks of Love, and I actually heard that you can sell
Oh,
them.
wow.
But I had
Wow.
thought about possibly
Hmm.
trying some different things and reattaching, because now hair has evolved over the 20 years
What?
from when I first cut my
Reattaching?
locks off. So there's a such thing. It's a little
Oh
time
my
consuming, and
God.
costs a little
Yeah,
coins,
I'm
cost
pretty
some
sure.
coins. But you can your hair has to be a certain length, but they can actually reattach them, and
That's
basically like they'll grow back in.
crazy.
So I did keep them, and
Wow.
I counted. I had over, I want to say over 150.
Oh wow.
I
Wow.
think
No
I had
wonder
like,
your head was
I
heavy. Oh,
know.
and they were long.
gee.
Yes.
Like they
Wow.
were like as long as, I don't know how long your braids are. They was a
Uh,
little tiny bit shorter than that,
Wow.
lengthwise.
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. That that's amazing. But yeah, I just want to say that I actually
Wow.
have had one of my coworkers, he was like, you ought to lock your hair, because I do the oh gosh, where you, not the two strand twist, but the where you kind of you
Yeah.
kind of do the
Finger
Mm-hmm.
ring it,
coils.
finger
Yeah.
coils. Thank you, couldn't get it out. Do the finger coils, and when I let that get old, it looks like I'm trying to lock. But I haven't. I've been afraid to commit to
Don't be
Wow.
afraid. Don't be afraid. I've
that.
actually thought about sister locks as well,
Oh yeah, those are nice
That would be
too.
which
really
I
are
cool.
love how
probably,
small they are and
yeah,
stuff.
I think it wouldn't be as heavy as the traditional
Yeah, I think
lock,
they are lighter.
because they're pretty much like a couple of strands
Strands
of
of hair,
hair.
yeah.
So I thought about that too, like as a nice transition
Wow. Wow.
as my nets.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, my journey, let me see. When I think about I have early memories of me being in front of the stove with the hot comb on the stove and getting burnt to death for to get
Yeah.
prepared to go to church, from that, the pigtails and different things like that. But as I began to grow, I never cut my hair, and so like it got really long. Like in high school, this thing is funny too. They're both gone now, but there were two guys that I went to high school with, and I would walk down the halls, and they would be like, "Pocahontas." To this day, I can still hear that, but they would call me Pocahontas because my
You
hair
know
was
that's your
so
cousin.
long. Stop. But yeah, so anyway, I mean, it was even longer. I mean, I got it blown out right now. It was even longer than this, when I
It
was a
was
kid.
long.
Yeah, it was. And so people started to kind of associate that with me. And I know just as a child, I was very shy, very, reserved, just very, into like pleasing other people. So a big part of my hair began to symbolize that, that part of me that was timid, that part of me that didn't take risks, that part of me that just wanted to please everybody and wanted to just kind of fly under the radar and that sort of thing. So when I got to college, it was only one other girl that had went natural. Tammy, shout out to Tammy, that had went natural before me. And
Tammy.
I remember seeing her hair and been like, wow, I wonder how my hair would look if I went natural, because I had, hadn't considered it, because at that time it was really unpopular. We talking, it was like, the thing was like 98. And so, I just began to think about, okay, I wonder, what would happen if I would go natural. And so I decided I would do it, and, was kind of being encouraged, by her, just kind of asking her questions and stuff like that. And when I say I would go through that in between process between trying to grow out perm and you got new growth and perm in, was something to behold. It was something to behold. I can remember moments because you try to, when you still got the perm in your hair, you try to make it seamless. So you straighten the first part of it. But honey, we were a part of a choir called Children of the Sun choir, and there were many moments where we would get caught up in the spirit or start shouting. It would be hot in that room when we would be rehearsing, and before you know it, I'd look in the mirror and I'd have a big old afro with the perm hanging at the end. So it was crazy. So those would be those moments where I would be like, do I really want to do this? This is horrible, but then I got to the point, I think we were about to have our banquet. That junior year we were having the banquet or something. And I remember just being like, I'm tired of going through this in between stage. And so I decided, I'm going to go and get the perm cut out. Okay. I sit in the chair. She start cutting my hair. I turned around and looked at it after she was done. I said, oh my God, I look like a boy. And I was traumatized because, I literally went from having all this hair to having like, it was a tapered cut, if you will, after it finished. But I wasn't in a barbershop with a whole bunch of men. It was just me and that one. Because it seemed like I can't remember what happened. I think I was just trying to get my hair done for the banquet, and she was open, but there was nobody else in the shop but her. So it was just me in there, thank goodness. But I remember turning around and looking in the mirror, just being like, oh my God, I look like a boy. And so, but I got myself together, got dressed, for the banquet. And I remember going to the banquet and just getting so many, compliments. And I was like, oh, for real? It look all right. And so that really helped me to embrace it even more, and of course, because my hair grows like weeds, it didn't stay short long, and so I've gone from that to twist outs to, bobs to, I've just gone back and forth up and down the gamut because my hair just grows so fast. So, and in the process of that, trying different products, trying to figure out what works for my hair, what doesn't work for my hair. And Black women, we know that there is a slew of products now on the market, but then there wasn't. So, like Sweet indicated, just trying. I think when I first cut my hair off, I would get the little Jerry curl juice,
Yeah.
the little gel,
Yeah. The
and
activator.
activator gel. Yep. And I would put that in my little curls that had to moisturize them. It wasn't much, out there. But now it's like you go down the aisle, it's just so much to choose from. It's
Hmm.
ridiculous. There's so many industries that are now catering to us because they do see that it's big business. So yeah, but for me, growing out my natural hair was independence, it was freedom, it was liberation, it was breaking free from the opinions of others. It was the first, shaving, of that shell or whatever, and just coming more into who, I actually wanted to be. And so, but throughout the years, I've embraced all types of style. I remember I went through a phase to where, I'm natural, hear me roar, and anytime I saw a Black woman with weave in their head, I'd be like, they, it's fake, and, just going, you know what I'm
Shame.
saying?
Shame.
Yeah, I went through, and we got that little debate that goes on in our community where, it's like, especially at one time, like when the natural hair was coming on the scene, it was like, there was that push to become natural, and anybody who wasn't was,
Not
I,
woke.
yeah, not woke, if you will. But of course, I've evolved to, honey, wearing weaves, protective styles, crochets, wigs, whatever that is going to give me the
Yeah.
convenience, that I need. And for me, it's not, when I do wear protective styles, it's not because I hate my hair. It's because I'm tired of doing it in that moment. And, I need a style to carry me through to the next time or whatever. So, but just kind of, summing up my journey, that's basically what it's been for me. It's been liberation, it's been freedom, it's been just chipping away at that mask, and getting further to that real, authentic, true person. So that's what it's kind of has symbolized for me. So, yeah.
That's
Awesome.
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 But yeah, so going back to, so now that you guys have heard our natural hair journeys, and what our hair is meant to us, what it has symbolized, it brings back even more importance as it relates, to the Crown Act and how it is important for it to get passed in all 50 states. Because there have been, I don't know if you guys have seen, the news. There've been, seem like, I'm trying to remember, there was a girl who got suspended because she was wearing braids. There was another school district that actually sent home a memo, basically saying that they couldn't wear, any, ethnic styles or any braids or anything like that, especially not locks. Those are really discriminated against.
Yeah.
So what do you about to say something, Sweet?
I was there was I don't know if you may be about to mention it. There was also a young man that this was like maybe a year ago. He was a wrestler, and they
Yeah.
like made him cut cut. He had locks, and
Yeah.
they made him cut his locks off before the meet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was almost like a public embarrassment, if you ask me. I watched it
yeah,
and it actually brought me to tears. Uh, it made me so upset and brought me to tears because I thought they were like, applauding him or like I think literally the coach or someone was cutting his hair as everybody stared at him. And it was just devaluing, like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Uh, so that you can wrestle and it's about your team. But that's not how it should be. We should not have to choose between
Yeah.
things that are a part of us, a part
Absolutely.
of us, you know.
Yeah.
All he had to do, if it was really in the way or too long, is have something to band it up. That was
Yeah.
just a reason, something to do. And my son right now is locking.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and Lord God, please, Jesus, don't let
Let,
me have to go to the school for
oh
no
my.
reason for someone bothering my son, because
Yeah.
I think it's very important for women, girls, and our boys. I'm
Hmm.
so glad. I don't know what the pendulum switch was, but I'm so glad everybody was like, you know what? I'm gonna cut my perm out too. Like,
Yeah.
literally, I saw my sister was the first one in my family to go natural. But that now I go to a ministry where nobody, they probably think it's part of our religion, because all the my bishop, I've never had a first lady that wore natural hair. And what I mean by natural hair, I mean, like, not just not doing perms, but she didn't
Hmm.
straighten it. She would wear
Wow.
2-strand twists. She'd come in with a big afro. And I had never seen a first lady like that. So
Mm.
my bishop wife, she was natural. She never really said much about it. And then my sister went natural. I went natural. Then a young lady in my church went natural, and so all the women, uh, maybe except for one or two, are natural. And
Wow.
it's because one of the things for me too, and I don't know if I said this during my journey too, it's like a holistic thing. It's me
Yeah.
appreciating me, and also not wanting to put, I'm trying to live a more holistic life. We're watching,
Absolutely.
we as a nation, we're watching more what's in our foods. You look at like the
Hmm.
Tabitha Browns now, Black vegans,
Yeah.
and just caring about chemicals and what's in our products that we use, and all that has to do with, not wanting to put a chemical relaxer to basically burn my scalp and burn my hair into being in the state that it's not
Mhm.
naturally in. Now, mind you, this
Yeah.
is not to shame sisters to still get perms.
Oh,
Please
yeah.
don't think
No,
I'm not
please, no.
saying that, because I got relaxers for the majority of my life. At right now, I
mhm.
still have more relaxers, more years of relaxers than I've been natural. So
Yeah,
this is not to shame anybody.
it's not.
It's just where we are, and I think it's a good thing. I think every little, like, if you've seen the documentary, what's it called? Good hair, bad hair. Chris
Yeah,
Rock did
Chris
it.
Good
Rock.
hair.
Good
Good
hair.
hair. That was a good
It
documentary.
really
Yeah.
was.
It was eye opening because a 5-year-old girl shouldn't be getting a relaxer.
Come on. Mm-mm.
Those are like mental things and chemical things. Like at
Yeah,
that age, our hair hasn't even kinked up all the
it
way,
has it.
you know.
Yeah.
And 5-year-olds getting relaxers, it's a lot. So we
Hmm.
just gotta be like, our hair is beautiful. I think
Yeah.
little girls should wear natural hair, and I think boys hair usually is natural. But if they want to lock, they should be able to lock, especially as children, as
Mm.
kids, because that's actually one of the reasons why I was like, you know what, I am gonna let you lock up because my thought now, I pray that the Crown Act gets all the way done and we
Yes.
pass this in all 50 states. But I really was like, well, I'm gonna let my baby lock now because when he gets grown, depending on
Hmm.
where he works, if stuff don't change, he won't be able to have locks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a shame. But
It
I'm like,
is.
well, he's a little preteen, little teenager now. I'm gonna let him lock up.
Mm.
So it's just more a lot to this, and I'm very happy that I'm living in a season and time where we're embracing uh holistically, naturally who we are, and
Mhm.
calling it beautiful. And to be honest with you too, you talked about Sweet mentioned about the men in the barbershop that you look good, sis.
Hmm.
A lot of the stuff that we think the opposite sex thinks is so beautiful. Like I get
Mm.
a lot of compliments with my when I wear my head covers, my turbans, when I put my little bow like Sweet has, and I let my afro kind of be out. I did it the other day where I had a bow, but I had like my afro baby. I get
Hmm.
compliments.
Yeah.
I get compliments. So it's just been a lot of conditioning of the mind to standards of beauty, and we just need
Yeah.
to know that we are beautiful the way we are.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but what do you guys think is, I mean, maybe it is a simple answer, is at the root of why, there is discrimination against certain hair types.
I think it goes back to the root of everything in this nation. When you look
Mm,
at black and white, it's racially driven.
yeah.
I think you mentioned it in the history that you were giving us. There is this concept of what beauty represents, and that concept of beauty has been presented to us through our white brothers and sisters. They run the industry. They control X, Y, and Z. So if this beauty leader says this is what beauty looks like, then everyone must acquiesce to their ideology of what beauty is. And so whenever anybody bucks the system, which it really isn't a buck to the system, it's just a freedom of expression
Yeah.
at best.
It's just the hair that's
Um,
growing out of your head.
yeah, it's a freedom of expression because that's what hair is. It's a
Yeah.
way to express. When
Hmm.
anyone wants to freely express, um, for it to be viewed as unprofessional, where do we
Yeah.
basing that on? What is that
Hmm.
standard of professionalism? Because
Yes.
I remember this conversation because my cousin had locks I think he had locks like way before I got mine. And so even within our family, we were like the only two people that had locked hair. And on my mom's side, um, like I said, I was doing this when it wasn't popular. My aunties fussed me out for cutting it off, and then they didn't understand why I wanted to get them locks in my head. And then when I cut the locks
Mm.
off, they said, I ain't never seen nobody with locks like yours. So I was like, make up your mind. So it's like sometimes you don't know what you like and appreciate until it's been put before you.
Yeah.
But there have been other cases where I've heard of Black women having issues about hair color.
Yeah.
I remember reading an article, this was some years ago, of a young lady who dyed her hair blonde. And
Mm.
I heard to have more fun, I want to be blonde too. And her company she worked for, I think the hotel industry, hospitality, and she was a front desk clerk, and they had issues with that. And
Mhm.
so my issue is if my Caucasian counterpart is a brunette and she decides she wants to go platinum blonde, is that an issue? What's the difference?
This
And
is
so I
true.
think to answer the question, I think it just goes back to the Eurocentric view of what defines beauty. And I think what we're seeing now in this evolution is we are saying this is how beauty is defined to us.
Yes. Yes. Awesome.
I, I think part of that too is association. So, like we talked about in our episode last week, associations of Black people being seen as aggressive or
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm,
don't know, undereducated, just kind of putting images of us and coupling it with a narrative that's not true. And when
Mm-hmm.
it
mm,
comes to hair, so you see me wearing my afro. And if you're old enough to remember or have that association, now you're
yeah.
thinking militant 70s, Black
Mm-hmm.
Panther, all this kind of thing, which really has no, for that time, that was a part of that movement, but that was just us being saying we are happy to be who we are.
Yes. Yes.
It's not militant. This is our hair, and I think a lot of our history has caused blacks in this country to have to hide themselves
Mm,
for everyone else's comfort,
yes.
to
Yes.
hide themselves uh, to make everyone else feel comfortable. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's part of it. You know, my afro, my twist more reminds you that
Yes.
though I am an American, I am African.
Mm-hmm.
Though I am an American, I'm a descendant of an African person, and I am different from you. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ashamed of my
Yeah.
difference. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm beautiful too. And that doesn't mean straight hair isn't beautiful, but my
Yeah.
naps are beautiful as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's part of it too, that association um, with locks and braids and anything that's naturally us to something negative.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, April, too, even when you're talking about corporations now, like I said, I had lots for almost 16 years, and I worked in the corporate sector for 6 of those years, and I never had any issues about my locks. I also worked with other Black men that had locks, and to my knowledge, none of them had issues. But there
Mhm.
was this seems like a global misnomer that locks are considered unprofessional. And
Yeah.
so when you look at that, then we have to look at, when you're looking at industries and standards and HR manuals, who's sitting in those boardrooms and meetings that
Right.
define what is professional
Yes.
or not, you
Absolutely.
know? And
Hmm.
so if we don't have a voice in those sectors, then our voice is taken and we were spoken on behalf of. Because I think if we had a voice, we could say what's professional and what's not professional. It's never professional to wear a bonnet, a sleeping garb
Please
out
don't
in
wear
public. That's not
it. I
professional.
hate saying that.
With a passion. That's not professional. Now you would think that that's not something that you would have to say, but I have worked in some
Mm,
settings where that
yeah.
that was seen. And so I think, when you have diversity from corporate on down, from the head to the, from the top rather, in these high places, then you get a more balanced view from a diverse standpoint. Because
Yeah.
do we say to the Muslim that is unprofessional? I've seen many of my
Hmm.
Indian sisters wearing their because of religious beliefs or whatever, wearing
Hmm.
their is it hijab? I don't think it's hijab.
Uh,
Their head coverings. I forgot what they're called right now. But they wear their head coverings
mhm.
because it's a part of their religion. I've worked in the corporate sector where I work with Muslim men where they wore their for lack of a better, the actual appropriate term, it looks like a turban type. You guys know what I'm talking about with the
Yeah.
Indian men. I've
Yeah.
seen them wear that, and it was accepted because it's a part of their custom. It's a part of who they are. And no one would even think to say, hey, take that off. I've seen my Jewish men with their little, or they little hats that they wear at certain
Yeah.
times. And no one thinks, hey, this is not
Mm-hmm.
professional. You should not be wearing this. It's a part of who they are. So what that kind of says to me is we are accepting at times of everyone. And I don't want to make an absolute, but it comes across as though the
Yeah.
acceptance is more extended to others outside of us.
Yeah.
And
I,
that's not all the time, because like I said, I've worked in corporate and I've worked in the public sector, and I've never had any type of reprimand or had anyone say anything to me out of the way pertaining to my locks that I had for
yeah.
16 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I agree with you both. And I think too, going back like to the last episode that we talked about, just it goes back to that deep fear, like that fear of rebellion, or, if anybody kind of marches to the beat of a different drum or kind of steps out of line of the pattern that has been set in place, then they're kind of seen as a threat. So I think it kind of goes back to that as well. But like you said, I haven't experienced any. I'm trying to think. I have had looks, you know what I'm saying, whenever I've had like twists or different things like that, but nothing in the workplace where they've been like, go home, change your hair, but I hate that some people have experienced that, and because it's the hair that's growing out of your head. So it's like, and even with the whole braids thing, I don't really see the issue with, because it was one little girl where it was like, they couldn't wear braids. And I'm like, what's wrong with braids? But, so yeah, it's
But
one of the, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I've seen, so because we are so creative in nature, and not just us, I've seen this happen a lot of times. I have a friend of mine, and when I first met her, her hair, Caucasian sister, her
Hmm.
hair was literally rainbow,
Oh,
purple,
wow.
pink, orange, green, yellow, rainbow. Roy G. Biv,
Okay.
everything but black.
Roy G. Biv.
That was her hair.
Wow.
And I met her in a church setting, and she stood out because she's an older lady. She stood out because she literally had rainbow hair, and it was really long. Like, she's kind of short. So I'm looking at your twist, April. It probably was like, if it wasn't at her buttocks, it was very close to it. So it was very
Wow.
long, all of this rainbow hair. So, I had to go have a
Mm.
conversation with Sister Girl after church. And I was like, I like your hair, because I did.
Wow.
And she was like, for her, she got it as a conversation piece,
Mm.
because people would come up to her and comment about her hair, and then she would engage them. So for her, it was ministry related. But honestly and truthfully, I don't know if rainbow hair is appropriate in corporate. So whether
I
it's my
got you.
Caucasian sister, or whether it's my African American sister that's got multicolored braids, I don't know if that's appropriate hair for a corporate setting or even a public sector setting. But
Mhm.
I've seen that. I've seen men. I mean, I've seen women with multicolored hair. And honestly, and this could be wrong, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but whenever I see people that are that freely to express in that manner, in my brain, I automatically think either they're self-employed, or they're in
Mm,
some type of employment where creativity is embraced.
got you.
Whether
Yeah,
they're beauticians, they're photographers, I consider them to be a part of the arts.
I got you.
Um,
Yeah.
because in
Corporate America
in that,
is a different beast.
Right.
Yeah.
And the public sector as well. And so even if
Hmm.
I were in a boardroom with an HR department making the do's and don'ts of dress code and hair and things of that nature, for me, I feel like that would be to come to work with purple hair. I do not feel like that would be appropriate. I think
Yeah.
any color that's not something that could be natural, orange could be natural, blonde could be natural, brunette could be natural, black could be natural. But when we get into yellow, blonde could be natural. But when it's like punk rockish, I don't think that's
Yeah.
appropriate. And I think, we do have to set boundaries.
I agree. And going back to the whole locks discussion now, so I mean, I don't want to offend nobody, anything like that, but some people, when they get locks, they don't take care of them. It look like, and so I can understand in a corporate setting, your employer coming to you and be like, can you do something with, because it's like, so I don't want, even with the passing of that act for, that to be, I guess, misconstrued to where you just kind of come looking like Bob Marley and, he was
And
able to
to
do that because he was, in the arts.
who he was, right?
Yeah, but
And,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I think that's an awesome point, Holly, because I think it goes back to what we were saying about having a seat at the table.
Yes.
Because I guarantee you, if I had locks or someone had locks, and because you and I, well, not even you and I, unkempt is unkempt.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody know what unkempt look like: black,
Yeah.
white, purple, green. But if a white supervisor had to go and tell brother man that his hair was unkempt, he would be
Mm-hmm.
offended. But
Yeah.
when you have a seat at the table from an HR standpoint, and I say have a seat at the table, meaning a black presence, then they can
Mm-hmm.
say, we need to write this in here. We're not saying you
Yeah.
can't have locks, but this is what groom appears to be.
Yes. Yes.
But you have to have a knowledge base of that to even be able to translate that into bylaws and guidelines.
That's
And
true.
so I think that further supports why it's important for when we're making these acts and revisions and things of that nature, that we do include African Americans, especially in situations that pertain to African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been in work environments, and as a black woman, and seen another black sister and been like, girl, now that hairstyle is old. Wash it out. It has gotten its life. But I'm not the only
Oh,
one. Y'all
Father.
work in the public. You have seen
Yeah,
somebody who has extended the max of their hairstyle.
this is
It's
true.
time for you to wash that out and start over. Go back to the beautician, whatever the case may be. That's unkempt.
Ooh, Lord,
And
yeah.
I realize that no one is saying anything because no one wants to offend. But
Yeah.
how you come to work like this? I've been in work environments where I've seen, head wraps were okay to wear.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've also seen head wraps worn in a way where I was like, man, you could have been a little bit more creative for how you tied that piece of material on your head. Like, you still at work. You're still engaging with the public.
Lord.
Like, real talk. I'm gonna wear this tomorrow. I'm gonna wear this out.
Rock it,
If
daughter.
if I were still working in the public sector, as neat as I feel like I look, as polished as I feel like I appear, I would not wear this to work. I just wouldn't. I would wear it on a Saturday,
Got you.
when I'm on my time and off the clock. But even though I don't necessarily feel like I look inappropriate, I still feel like there's a certain level of appropriateness, and is that a word, appropriateness, or being appropriate in a professional setting. And
Yeah.
so when you have a seat at the table, as Black women, we can define what appropriate is.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think it's you said the key word. See, me, I'm a little different. What you have on, I think that is appropriate for the office. I would
Mm-hmm.
wear that because this is the thing. What people don't seem to understand because of the standards. If I washed my hair and I patted them little CB plaits and I couldn't the twist out didn't twist out right and all, all these things I've got going on and I need to do a hair covering that's stylish, that I look neat and I'm clean. I have no problem with a look that you have. You're made up, you're clean, it's neat, it's not overly like everybody stop what you're doing and look at me type. It's a
Mhm.
that thing. But that's just my opinion. And one of the things is a lot of our codes of conduct when it comes to dress, being neat and clean is already in it. And a problem I've seen in the past, and I know you're not bucking against this, sweet, in any way,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the things that we saw in the news, they were not unkept.
It's
They
true.
were they
It's
were
true.
fresh braids. They
Yeah.
were nice little afro puffs, little girl with the her hair
Mhm.
her moisturized, and a lot of the there are gentlemen at my job with locks. Their hair is clean, it's glistening more than mine. They got more oil sheen than I got on
Uh,
my hair.
I love to see men
um,
that got them clean looking locks now.
they got the nice little colored tips. They be
Mhm.
coming in there with the crinkle with it up with it, making sure it's not in the way
Yeah.
of them working. Like we have wisdom, and yes, of course, we have to have guidelines. And
Mhm.
people, anytime there's a little shift, there's always somebody gonna take it too far.
Yeah.
But but
Mm-hmm.
but there is a line where when it's a difference between requiring neat and clean and just not liking black
That's
Absolutely.
people wearing
so
braids
true.
and
Absolutely.
black
I
people having
100%
afros,
agree.
and black people wearing our version of hair coverings that may not be religious, but
Hmm.
they're to cover our
Mhm.
heads, the hair, and make us feel comfortable and neat and what have you. So
Now,
I
I
just wanted
will
to bring
say,
that point.
I think that's a very good point, April, because I will say I have worn, it's funny though, it was like 2 years in before I ever wore any type of head covering to work. And I think that was just because I was like, I'm about to leave. I'm tired. But but I did wear, I don't think head coverings and head wraps are inappropriate. I worked with a wonderful soul for 2 years, and I don't know what Miss I forget her name now, Lord help, but I don't know what her hair looks like because in the 2 years of me working with her, she used to have she wore a head wrap every day.
Oh,
She had
wow.
the
For 2
you know
years?
what I'm talking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she wore. I don't know what her hair looked like on the weekends or
Mm.
whatever. But to work, she wore head wraps. She had different colors. She had them to match her outfits. They were very nice. They were very neat. And
Wow.
it wasn't this type of head wrap. It was, it had more height to it, and I call them
Yeah.
like a mini version of the Erica Badu head wrap. And
Okay.
no one ever. I'm pretty sure no one said anything to her because I'm pretty sure she would have, not bucked the system, but responded back. But she, I worked in a job where we were directly interacting with the public, and she always was appropriate in how she appeared.
Mm.
So I don't think that head wraps are inappropriate. I didn't want to give that misnomer. I'm saying this style of wrap for me would probably be um, pushing the envelope.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to do now is just offer any final thoughts, any encouragement that you may want to give to someone who's debating on whether or not they want to, go natural, or they're currently in the process and they frustrated and about ready to give up. Just whatever. Any final thoughts on the Crown Act, our history, your personal journey, just whatever you want to offer at this moment. Whoever want to go
Well,
first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
To my sisters who are already on the journey and you are getting frustrated and you are looking for you a box of perm, hold on. Hold on. It's
A little
going
while
to
longer.
get better. It
Yeah.
really will. It is a phase where you like Sweet was saying, that after you get from the teeny weeny to the in betweeny, and,
In between.
and you're like, what is going on
Yeah.
here? I can't do nothing with you. And I don't like this. But and I'm tired of wigs, and I'm tired. I remember I wore
Yeah.
me a wig, and y'all know I don't wear wigs. I wore a wig in the in between stage. But uh,
I wore
it's
wigs
gonna
too.
it's gonna get better. It's gonna get
Yeah.
Yeah.
better. Learn it. Go through it. You are beautiful. You can handle this. Put you some braids in your hair. Get you some head wraps. Learn how to wrap your wraps, and
Hmm.
press on. Get you the proper products. You can even make. I've made my own shampoo
Oh,
because I got
come
frustrated
on.
with uh trying to find something that didn't make my hair feel so brittle. And it's a lot
Mm.
of good products out there, but that a lot of people swear by, but it was just wasn't doing it for my hair. So
Oh.
I went on YouTube. A young lady showed how to make rosemary water, olive
Mm.
oils, and you take Bronner's Bronner's uh, soap as the base. It's
Oh,
like a
wow.
hemp. It's a hemp based soap that you can get, and it has no chemicals. And you add your oils, you add your rosemary water, and cleanse your hair.
All right,
And
Carol's daughter.
Let me find out you out here
I'm
making shampoos and stuff.
telling
yeah,
Make
I'm
me some
telling
you.
gel.
I look. Oh, I have to work on that one. But I'm telling you,
Mm.
this brought me to a place of holistic living. Like this
Wow.
natural hair
Yeah.
journey started me on like just kind of going a little further. So just to
That's
hang
true.
on. Don't get that box of perm. Don't get that box of perm. You gonna be all right. You still cute.
You can do it.
You
You
can
can
do
do
that. I
it.
will say this too, to piggyback before I go into my last statement. Um, there is so much, I know people make jokes about using food for hair products, but our
Mhm.
Hispanic brothers and sisters swear by some avocado mask and
Come
things of that
on now.
nature, and mayonnaise and stuff for moisturizing. But when I had locks, my hair is like a semi-soft texture. So once I would go and get it retwisted from the loctician, it would be popping for about a good 4 days. And then on day 5, it's like all the frizz in life would emerge.
It's life.
And it would in life, and it would look like I had not just got my hair freshly and tightly twisted. And that used to frustrate me. So I went to this one young lady, God rest her soul, she's passed on now. And I went to I couldn't get into with my regular guy, so I went to a new person, and she retwisted my hair with coconut oil and honey. Honey you put in your tea. When
Wow.
I say I looked like I had got a super perm
Come
from
on.
that coconut oil
Wow.
and twist, my hair stayed fresh for a good week. No lie, a good
Mm.
week. And I started like, I was like, what did you use on my hair? Because it has never lasted this long. And I saw her, the coconut oil, if you're not familiar with coconut oil, as it forms to whatever container. But as soon as it hits skin, it starts to melt. A little
Mm.
coconut
Yeah.
oil, a little bit of honey, mix those together. It creates like a sticky consistency. And she twisted my hair, and I used to twist my hair with coconut oil and honey. The
Wow.
downside is over an extended period of time, it will start to build up. So you definitely have to like do a good clarifying type of shampoo. But when you're talking about that holistic
Mm.
approach to hair and things of that nature, those type of things work. So
That's when you had
my
locks, right?
yeah, that's when I had locks. But I
Okay.
use coconut oil still on my hair.
Okay.
So do I.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And most stores sell it in like the natural food section. And I don't, when I have it, I try not to, it's a coconut oil, because you obviously, you can cook with it, but
Hmm.
I just keep it with my, hair products. I haven't bought any recently though.
Okay.
But my last comments would be to the young lady who has the perm. I would encourage, just for uh, uh, just for kicks and giggles, I would encourage to let your hair grow out. See what your hair looks like in its natural state. Even if after doing that, you fully say, yeah, I'm not the one, go back to the perm, whatever, but at least endeavor to try that journey and just see what it
Yeah.
reveals within you. And it's
Hmm.
definitely not to shame anyone who has a perm.
No.
I would, if I wanted to go back to a perm today, I would, and have no inhibitions about it. Would.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it is something when you are at your purest, without,
Yeah.
we know color is a chemical, but
Hmm.
without the alteration of what your hair is intended to do. I think it'll be a beautiful journey. Even if after going through that journey you decide, okay, I did it, I got the plaque, and I'm going to go back. I still think it's going to be some revealing things that you find out about
Yes.
all of the wonderful things that you can do with natural hair, because that's the
Hmm.
caveat too. I used to have this reoccurring dream too, that I had cut my locks and got a perm. It used to terrify me. I don't even, that's like a sidebar. I used to wake up like, ah, but
Oh
I
no.
don't know what that meant. I probably should have got that interpreted, but
Oh
um,
God.
there is
It was a
so much.
soulish dream.
It was a soulless dream. It could have been. But I used to I think it is so neat. That's the one thing I can say about natural hair. There are certain things that you can't do with perm hair. It's just, you just
Yeah, you
can't.
can't. It's
It's
true.
certain ways that you just can't manipulate it because of what the chemicals do to your hair when they make it straight. And if anybody, who's watching this or listening, I know you guys who have had a perm before, when you first get a fresh perm, that first week, them curls is not holding. It's
Hmm.
like the perm has to get like 2 weeks in before your hair starts to really respond.
Yeah, yeah.
But with natural hair, that was part of my journey in every phase of me, like cutting it off, going to locks, cutting the locks off, now having to manage this other new natural. I was like, April, I didn't know that I had, like, I got my hair cut and like I had a little Jerry curl. And I was like, this is what my hair is like? Huh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you, and not even encourage, but challenge you to at
Hmm.
least try it and see
Yeah.
how it pans out for you, and just be creative and do all of the fun things with it.
Hey, yes, and I I piggyback on that same notion to at least give it a try, because going natural does breed creativity, because you're in a place where you're like, okay, what do I do with my hair? Because when I look at people like Issa Rae, like when I was watching Insecure, like every time she come on, she got a different intricate style, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try that. Oh, I'm gonna try that. Oh, I'm gonna try that, because she's learned how to manipulate, and she knows what makes her hair look good, so it really brings out the creative nature in you. And for me, I've never seen when it's your hair that grows out of your head, it's there's a uniqueness to it as well. So that just that creativity and that uniqueness. So I would challenge you as well to go for it. See, how it feels. And if you don't like it, like Sweet said, you can put the creamy crack back in your hair. But, just give it a try. Give yourself a try, because that's you. That's the hair that God gave you and the hair that you were born with. So,
That's right.
but with that being said, I just wanted to leave you guys with that, and wanted to leave you with the website to go and sign the petition for the Crown Act, because they're in the process of trying to get it passed in all 50 states. So they have a petition online, and it's at thecrownact.com. So you can go there and sign the petition. And I'm going to also have all of the links to, where I got all of my research, because we not into plagiarism on this here broadcast.
Amen.
And I don't think I
Amen.
don't remember me saying where I got each source from. So I'm gonna, put those down there for you to click on and take a look at them yourself as well. But with that being said, that was it for this episode. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We pray that you were informed, you were entertained, you were educated, you were inspired, you were empowered, and we just thank you for listening. And so we just hope you guys have an amazing day. All right.
Bye.
Bye.